We're going to get into the next piece of content.
As Nicole Wallace and I were just, Donald Trump is in the Epstein emails. As Nicole Wallace and I were just discussing, that is now confirmed. Prior to this, responsible people, lawyers who deal in evidence, journalists who deal with what we know and don't know, weren't saying that yet. Other people have said all kinds of things, by the way, on both sides of this. But what you see on your screen, our headline here, is the first time this has been reported and confirmed with receipts because Epstein himself emailed about Trump. We have this from Congress. These are damning emails where Epstein says, this is his view, what he alleges, that Donald Trump knew of Epstein's conduct. He sent an email in 2019, revealed for the first time ever today, so long after his death. We now learn that he says, of course, Trump knew about, quote, the girls. Now, that is a major statement.
Stop it right there. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all. As a black man in America, I have my not so good views about the justice system here in America. I understand that America loves slavery. How do I know this? Because if you go to jail in America, regardless of what race you are, you actually become a slave. You become a slave to America via the prison industrial complex. Now, you have congressmen and you have congresswomen that have been in Congress and politics, handling the affairs of America for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So, when it comes to trying to pin this Epstein thing on Donald Trump, let me ask you guys a question. And I'm trying to be objective because a lot of people, like anytime you talk to somebody about politics, they always want to get emotional in their feelings. But here's the thing about politics. Politics doesn't give a fuck about your feelings. And I know that because these men and women sit on Capitol Hill all day, all night when the government shut down, and they pass bills that do not benefit everyday hardworking Americans. And this is exactly what they want y'all to do. They want y'all to get in your feelings, and they want you to storm the Capitol. Fred 420 Stoner in the chat says it's a dirty game. Politics is the ultimate dirty game. It's the dirtiest game. And that is one thing that American media is really horrible at. Because if you look at places like, let's say, Russia, the Russian media is not allowed to criticize their government officials. They get punished for it. And I think that, you know, just the pure integrity of journalism has long left our media here in the States. And now it's all about propaganda. So I say all of that to say, do we know exactly what Trump has done with Epstein? Do we know what he's done behind closed doors? No, we don't. So, yes, if he did something illegal, he should definitely have to sit down and do the time. But it's possible that he could be getting set up as well. Let's go.
The context of it is what lawyers and investigators would call more credible because it was made privately in a secret manner that he thought would stay secret. And if you're saying, okay, Ari, but now it's on the news, now it's in other people's hands. Yeah, years later and after he died, this
Shelby says if he did something illegal, he was convicted of the 34 felonies. I'm aware of that, but I'm talking about this situation that involves young kids, minors. I don't give a shit about those 34 felonies. That I'm gonna keep it real. That's some gangster shit. I said this before. I want a gangster in the White House. I don't want no soft person in the White House. I want a gangster in the White House that's gonna be tough on Russia, tough on Iran, tough on China, tough on Venezuela, tough on anybody trying to send their shithole illegal immigrants over here to run amok on our society and rape our women. Trump ain't perfect. I know he got all the bullshit with him, but I would take him over Biden or Kamala any day.
Statement he made stayed secret all that time through the probe and through his own death. So what they thought would stay secret did stay secret for a long time. And while Donald Trump vowed to release exactly this type of material, the emails or files in government possession, he broke that vow, and it's only the dogged pursuit of investigative reporters. We have a key one coming up, and government officials and in the independent branch of Congress, where Democrats, with some Republicans, I should note, have been pushing to release the files. And we'll get into what it means, whether you call it files or emails, transfers of documents, data. But these emails are some of the most newsworthy because they involve the now deceased Epstein trafficker talking to the now incarcerated Epstein co-conspirator, Maxwell. In that email, he says Trump also asked Maxwell, that's Ghislaine Maxwell, to stop, which seems to be a reference to a public fallout that we have seen, that Trump and Epstein were close.
Somebody says, what about Obama? We're not worried. We're not worried about Obama. He's too busy pandering to the gays and the lesbians.
They would socialize together. We've linked them in public reporting before, separate from what's in the files. We knew that they publicly appeared together. That was in the 2000s and later had this falling out. Epstein says Trump asked him to basically resign or leave Mar-a-Lago, but Epstein insists he wasn't formally a member. Now, Trump had claimed that he banned Epstein from the resort after basically a dispute over people who worked there. That's one way to put it. Others have questioned what it meant that they basically, quote, took people that worked for me and what kind of pressure and scrutiny that puts on both men and the people in their employ. Another Epstein email from 2011, newly revealed today for the first time, is the bombshell. It is redacted with the word victim, and I want to draw your attention to exactly what it says. Epstein is emailing secretly to Maxwell, later convicted for his sex trafficking ring, that Trump had spent hours at his house, hours at Epstein's house with, and redacted by the government, we just see the word victim. That's the individual name. The White House isn't denying that that was a victim. I'll get to that today. But basically, this is the now revealed claim. Do not dictate a kind of specific misconduct by Trump. Although they say he knew about the, quote, girls, and if you take the term girls literally, combined with what Maxwell was convicted of, and a heck of a lot of other reporting, the allegation from Epstein, now deceased, is that Trump knew about what girls, what minors, what females under 18 were doing, a type of wrongdoing. This is a huge deal. Trump spent hours with redacted victim. Trump knew what was going on. And remember, Trump claimed repeatedly last year, and his attorney general claimed this year, they would release the Epstein files. Now, people can debate what that term means. It's not a term you can just define in the dictionary or in any government handbook. Some people use it to mean what they believe to be a kind of secret pile of documents that the DOJ has. Other people mean just any material that's secret that could come out. The Epstein estate clearly has some of this material, which is how it got to Congress. I will tell you in our special report why the DOJ most probably has it. Now, the Trump link to Epstein has been documented. But this is the first time we have seen Epstein, in his own now deceased hand, put on paper or email, put down as a record what he thought Trump did and knew. And Maxwell responds back. And again, they thought this was secret. This is considered credible evidence. It's the kind of damning material that you can understand why Trump would want to keep secret. And that is clear, even apart from whether it rises to a legal level that investigators or federal prosecutors would look at. And when I say investigators, I mean they would have to investigate it. We are not saying, we're not reporting that these references reach the bar of opening a criminal probe. But if you think back outside of the Trump era to just normal political times being even linked this way to a convicted sex trafficker like Maxwell and the deceased accused sex trafficker Epstein. He just wasn't tried because he died in prison. This is a huge bombshell in and of itself. And there's more coming, according to at least a slim majority of the current Congress. Because late today, the House finally swore in Congresswoman Grijalva. This was after Mike Johnson had used the shutdown to delay this for 50 days. And that sets in motion what Democrats with some Republicans say are enough votes to override the Johnson-Trump secrecy agenda and get more Epstein materials released. So the vote is more relevant now than ever. You have this shocking new evidence. You have a Trump scandal that has been growing over time, not diminishing. And you have the administration, the Trump White House, basically saying, well, the Democrats selectively leaked a couple emails and that they're trying to, quote, smear Donald Trump. What's interesting about
Speaking of emails, how come did Hillary Clinton ever get held accountable for all of those emails that came up missing? Did she ever get held accountable for what? Those was it 600 confidential emails just magically deleted in thin air? That just crossed my mind.
About that is they are the ones who had long called to release the emails. I'll show you more on that. In addition, things are happening. We talk about sometimes nothing happening in Congress. Well, today, Republican lawmakers responded to Democrats and how they'd use their power, getting up off the mat here and doing something. And Republicans responded by doing more, which interestingly also hurts the Trump White House, releasing about 20,000 other documents from the Epstein estate. We have reporters sifting through those here. I can tell you a lot of folks in Washington, in media, in law, and certainly in politics are sifting through those. Now let me turn to Trump's broken promise. Trump is in the Epstein emails, yet he campaigned on this kind of transparency, releasing these emails and even more. And then after being sworn in, his Attorney General, Bondi, promised to release more Epstein material.
The list of clients that went to the island has not been made public. So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now.
And she would go on to vow to release what she said was sitting on her desk. She talked about a client list. And then later, and this is what caused such a MAGA uproar, AG Bondi, under Trump DOJ, said there was nothing more to release at all and said there was no possible blackmail. One of the other emails to a writer talks about that, although it doesn't confirm it. So what we have is Donald Trump and his top DOJ official claiming they would do part of what's happening today. And now that it's happening today, over their objections, they're saying this is bad. And that's why this story, although it starts with the victims, and we've had victims on this program, we have a Miami Herald reporter coming up who started all this work long before it was a political football, and that matters. This also matters because it is a kind
Salute to Cambodia. We got Cambodia checking in. Appreciate you for being here.
of an illustration of the most important problem with the way Donald Trump is governing right now. MAGA people notice it on some topics.
Speaking of Cambodia, one of the most craziest romances I ever had in my life was with a Cambodian chick. And let me tell you, yeah, she was definitely something else. In a really, really good way, and sometimes a really bad way. But boy, she was something else.
Other people notice it on other topics. But whether he's campaigning on lower prices or Epstein transparency, once in office, he not only turns to other issues, but lies about these things. And so depending on which issue you care about, you start to notice it. Donald Trump has been criticized more on this issue from the right than probably any other thing we can measure this year. And today shows those criticisms were on the right track, that he was acting guilty because he's in the files, and that when he attacked the Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, and other outlets for reporting that he was linked to Epstein, that he wrote him a birthday card, that Pam Bondi said he was in the files or the emails. He's in the emails. We have that today. And we've shown you that Trump and Epstein have a long, detailed, repeating history. We documented it in these two timelines, their relationship on the jet and the parties, And as you see over to the right, a lengthy case timeline where we showed some of these conflicts of interest. You got the parties in New York, you got Mar-a-Lago, you got video of them looking like two guys who definitely enjoyed each other's company. And yes, they claimed a later falling out. Trump is trying to downplay what actually happened. He has sued the Wall Street Journal because they published evidence, corroboration. That birthday card was later leaked by, do you remember where it came? Where it came from? The Epstein estate. In law, they call this a chain of custody. So when you have material and it goes from, say, the original source, literally Epstein's home, out to another reputable source, say prosecutors or the government or Congress, that's the chain of custody. That authenticates the material. It looks like Donald Trump and some people around him knew he was in these emails, knew about this birthday card, if he wrote it and signed it. And
Damn, Lisa Steele in the chat says first president she ever voted for was Reagan. Damn, I was probably like, what, 1 or 2 years old. You know, I was fresh out the sack, you know, on some Similac. Well, hopefully, I don't think I was on Similac. I don't think I was on Similac because I have a knack for math and science. I'm fascinated with math and science. And what I notice, a lot of children that's on that baby form, that Similac, they like shit like Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? They're not interested in math and science. I think I was breastfed. Let's go.
And Pam Bondi, according to reporting that Trump objected to, warned him and said maybe it's better to take the political hit for breaking the campaign vow or looking like you were misleading or lying than take the hit for being in the emails. But look what's happened. Now they've taken the hit for both. And the story's not over. This is a matter of significant interest. We're seeing it today since the emails dropped at every major news site, in local papers, not just the politically obsessed national ones, and you can see it in El País and international news, all from when it broke today. This is the one story that President Trump cannot run from. Now, he has deflected, he has misled, and only he knows what he knows. Only he knows what he did and why they had the falling out. Only he knows what he remembers he knew at the time about whether there was a awareness of a level of operational sex trafficking that he objected to, which could go in his favor. In fairness, if the email is correct that he objected to it and told Maxwell about it and they both remembered it, that's one thing in his favor. But how did he know so much about it and why did he mislead about it after the fact? And when he was running on vowing transparency, what was he planning? And when Pam Bondi, according to reporting, said, you're in these files and emails, then what did they do? These are big questions. Today is a breakthrough. And there are some people who look up these days, and every time they see a breakthrough, they say, well, will anything change? Or does it matter? Will there be accountability? But this is the kind of story, particularly with heat from the right to the left, and now a looming vote to get more files, that has a lot of momentum.